What is up, everybody? Here with the 52nd shelf of my action movie collection. Starting off with The Guardian with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher. Very solid action movie, a lot better than I thought it would be, about Coast Guard rescuers. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it before. The budget of this movie, it looks like $1 million. It's ridiculous. At one of Ashton Kutcher's best movies as well. Then we have Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf, Michelle Monaghan, and Billy Bob Thornton. Absolutely amazing movie. One of Shia's best movies as well. This was back when he was doing studio movies instead of his indie stuff that he likes doing now. But yeah, very good movie. Then we have Romeo Must Die, my favorite Jet Li movie of all time. The soundtrack, the actors, the action. I love the director of this movie too. He directs a lot of other great movies like Exit Wounds and Cradle to the Grave. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal movie. Then we have Taken with Liam Neeson. Obviously a low-budget action classic that turned Liam Neeson into a huge action star. Rightfully so, too, with this movie. Very fun movie to go back and watch from time to time. Then we have G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. I actually prefer this one over Retaliation with The Rock. A lot of the people from this movie didn't come back for the second one, which was kind of stupid as well, which is one of the reasons why I probably didn't like it. So there was no continuity. So, I mean, it's kind of sad. But yeah, I like this movie. Then we have Shooter with Mark Wahlberg. Absolutely phenomenal movie. I'm a big Mark Wahlberg fan for his action movies. Definitely worth checking out. It's an older movie, but it's still great. Then we have Fracture with Anthony Hopkins and Ryan Gosling. Great thriller. Anthony Hopkins at his best here. This was right when Ryan Gosling was starting to come into his own as well. Pretty good supporting cast, but just the story in general is what carried this movie. Then we have Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Phenomenal action movie, as we all know. This is where they met on the set and everything before they got divorced recently. But yeah, this is a great action movie. I mean, I kind of wish we would have seen a sequel to this personally, but we never did. Then we have the best football movie of all time, and that is Any Given Sunday. With the cast for this movie is insane. I guess everyone wants to work with Oliver Stone, and rightfully so. This movie is gritty. It is dark. No characters are good characters. Everyone's skewed. A really good look at professional sports for sure. Then we have The Siege with Denzel Washington, Annette Bening, and Bruce Willis. Very good look at like how certain crises are handled by the government, and as far as terrorism and stuff like that goes. This was before 9/11 even too, which makes it even scarier. I can just imagine I don't think this movie would have been made after 9/11, to be honest, but very good movie. Then we have the original and the first, The Fast and the Furious. Phenomenal movie. I wish they would go back to the realistic kind of look and feel of the first couple Fast and Furious movies before they just got outrageously stupid. But I love this movie. Then we have Too Fast, Too Furious. I remember I went and saw this in the theater like 3 or 4 times because I was such a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. Again, this was back before they got ridiculous. So, I mean, I could understand, street racers messing with drug dealers and stuff like that. But as far as like international espionage, no. Then we have The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. A lot of people seem to hate on this movie, but I actually like this movie. I thought Lucas Black did a solid job in this movie. The weakest point I would say would probably be Bow Wow. And that would probably be it, because everyone else in this movie was really, really good. So, enjoyed this movie. And then we have Fast and Furious. Another solid outing into the Fast and Furious franchise, again with drug dealers, not international espionage. So, very solid. Then we have TripXX, which is about international espionage, which makes sense. And, you know, I think that the studio dropped the ball on this one too, not making a sequel with Vin Diesel, you know, shortly after this came out, because at the time America was looking for its James Bond, and this had a real shot, just like the Bourne movies did, but, you know, they only made 3-4 of those with, you know, Matt Damon. So Mission Impossible kind of took the torch and ran with it, and TripXX missed the ball there, which kind of sucks, because Vin Diesel could have had like a big franchise, I think, out of this. Then we have TripXX State of the Union. You know, they did this instead of a Vin Diesel sequel. It was okay, but it was nowhere near as good as the Vin Diesel movie. Still a solid action watch if you just like watching action movies. Then we have the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 with Denzel Washington and John Travolta, directed by one of my favorite directors, Tony Scott, not Ridley Scott. I love his action movies. They're always super intense and super tight. You know, they don't need the over-the-top ridiculous budget. You know, he was the closest thing to old school action directors that's left, really, or was left. You know, sad what happened with him. Then we have Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Love this movie. Love this franchise. But this was definitely a very solid outing into this franchise for sure. Then we have what I think is the best outing in this franchise, and that's Dead Man's Chest. Just the story and the action in general for this movie was, you know, you couldn't stop watching it, which is always good, because that's when time flies, when you're just enthralled in a movie like that. Then we have At World's End, which was a pretty solid outing. It's a lot darker than the previous one, but it's still a very, very solid watch. Then we have Alexander, the director's cut. I like this movie. I like movies like ancient war, fight with swords movies, and this is definitely one of those. There are some other story elements that kind of take you out of it, but things like that I guess were pretty normal back then. The one thing with this movie is I've seen the theatrical cut, I've seen the director's cut. There's the final cut out there, and I don't know what the final cut has that this one does not. I would definitely like to know that, if anyone knows, if it's worth picking up to see what the final cut is compared to this. But yeah, I like this movie. Then we have Vantage Point, great action movie from multiple, everyone's different point of view, kind of like a Crash kind of thing during a terrorist event. And I like that. I thought that was an interesting deal. But like once you've seen it once, the thing with those type of movies is you kind of know what's going to happen, which kind of ruins it whenever you want to try to rewatch it. So, I mean, that kind of sucks, but still a solid movie. And then we have The Transporter, the movie that made Jason Statham uber famous here. Love this movie, phenomenal. I still go back and watch this all the time. Considering how low budget it was, it looked awesome on the screen. The soundtrack was phenomenal. I actually went out and bought the soundtrack for this movie. I liked it so much. But yeah, definitely very solid if you haven't seen the Transporter series before. But that will do it for this shelf. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe. Your support is much appreciated. I'm also over on Letterboxd. The link to that is in the profile description of this channel. Otherwise, until next time, guys, have a good one.